Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I get to my prepared remarks, opening remarks, I would like to express concern about the sharing of classified information that has been such a big story on the news in the last 24 hours. And I hope that this committee will express our concern about sharing classified information with the Department of State, as Secretary Rubio was on that call, and also with making sure that we are safeguarding critical information as the Records Act requires. So I would, as a member of the Intelligence Committee, I know you know better than most how important this is, and I hope you'll join me in making sure that we send that message to the Department of State. Now, I would like to welcome our nominees, your families and supporters who are here with you today. From representing the United States at our embassies in Israel and Panama to serving as the legal advisor for the entire Department of State, the posts you've been nominated to fill are incredibly consequential. In the wake of the Hamas attacks and Israel's campaign in Gaza, we've been working to avoid escalation and a wider regional war. A war that would not only threaten all our allies in the region, but would be dangerous for the United States. I believe the ceasefire the Trump administration helped implement between Israel and Hamas was a good first step. However, I do not agree with the idea of the U.S. owning Gaza or forcibly displacing Gazans, as the president has suggested. Getting drawn into this conflict and putting American troops on the ground in Gaza, I think, would be a disaster. But the ceasefire began an important process of getting Israeli hostages returned home. It opened up opportunities for humanitarian aid to reach Palestinians. Sadly, with Israel resuming the attacks in Gaza, violence has returned and the entire region is threatened again. Instead of moving to a second phase, we are standing by and watching as the ceasefire agreement comes undone. I think it's important for us to get the parties back to the negotiating table to focus on phase 2 and to get all of the hostages released to achieve long-term peace and security for Israelis and Palestinians. Mr. Huckabee, I know you've supported Israeli annexation of the West Bank and advocated for total Israeli control of Palestinian territory, as we discussed yesterday when you were kind enough to meet with me. This rhetoric is highly incendiary across the Middle East and the entire Muslim world. And so I hope that will think about how to advance long-term peace and stability in the region. Mr. Cabrera, I'm also concerned about the threats from this administration toward a friendly government in our own hemisphere, and that is Panama. I take the risk of China's influence very seriously, both along the Panama Canal and across the region, and I'm concerned that escalating threats about the U.S. reclaiming the canal, even if they're only meant as a start for negotiations or to extract concessions, could have dangerous unintended consequences. If confirmed, you will be leading the American Embassy in Panama at a time when sound judgment and experience are needed. I hope you will speak to your plan to ensure that threats and saber-rattling do not lead Panama and other countries to hedge their bets with the United States, to drive them to explore closer rather than more distant relationships with China in the long term. Finally, Mr. Rubinstein, if confirmed, you will hold one of the most significant positions at the State Department as the legal advisor. You would be providing legal advice on areas that are not only critical to our national security, but in many cases, these are areas that have been the focus of a relentless attack by this administration and Elon Musk. Your advice would cover visa operations and border security, hiring and firing decisions for personnel, sexual discrimination in the workplace, the security of sensitive data, the payment of foreign assistance and operating funds. Many of these issues have been the bedrock of 6 decades of investment that have made the United States more respected and influential than any other nation. I've always supported reforming government and making sure our tax dollars are spent wisely. But across America's foreign policy and national security agencies, The administration has acted without regard for U.S. laws enacted by Congress to establish agencies and how funds should be spent. So I hope you will address in your remarks what role you believe Congress plays in these questions, or whether the President, using the theory of the unitary executive, has the right to unilaterally override congressional authorizations and appropriations. I look forward to hearing each of your thoughts and insights. Thank you all.